Have you ever imagined waking up from a deep sleep only to discover that your life is in grave danger? For Michael, what was supposed to be a miraculous recovery turned into a nightmare when he overheard his wife plotting with her lover to steal his inheritance. Trapped in his own body, he had to make a terrifying decision to play dead. As he listened to their treachery, his heart filled with sorrow and anger, but he knew he had to stay strong. With the help of a compassionate doctor, Michael slowly regained his strength and plotted his revenge. The path was filled with pain, betrayal, and emotional turmoil, but Michael was determined to expose the truth and reclaim his life. Will he succeed, or will his enemies outsmart him? Watch till the end to find out how this thrilling story unfolds, from hope to despair, and finally to a bittersweet victory. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Michael stumbled down a suffocating, claustrophobic corridor, each footstep weighed down by an oppressive dread that seemed to grow heavier with every move he made. In the distance, a faint glimmer of light from a barely ajar door flickered a fragile beacon of hope in the overwhelming darkness. Shadows loomed around him, their eerie whispers filling the air with secrets too elusive to grasp. Then, without warning, a blinding flash tore through the darkness, forcing Michael to shield his eyes, while a deafening roar reverberated through his head, like distant, tormenting voices. From the abyss, a deep, commanding voice resonated, telling him he must go back, that his journey was far from over. An unseen force, powerful and unyielding, propelled him forward, pulling him back toward the realm of the living. When Michael slowly opened his eyes, the harsh, sterile light of the hospital room flooded his vision, momentarily disorienting him. His body felt heavy, paralyzed, as if he had been encased in lead. His mind, foggy and confused, struggled to piece together how he had ended up here. A chaotic swirl of memories, some joyful, others filled with sorrow, flooded his thoughts, intertwining into a tangled web of emotions. As the fog in his mind began to clear, familiar sounds gradually returned to him, the relentless beeping of the monitors, the hushed conversations nearby, and the soft, yet firm, voice of someone close. With great effort, Michael turned his head slightly, focusing on the voice that had once brought him comfort. It was his wife, Lisa, a voice he had cherished for years, now laced with a chilling unfamiliarity. Her words cut through the air like a knife. Yes, the inheritance will be ours soon. We just have to be patient. Everything will be in our name. Don't worry, James. Michael won't wake up. A cold wave of shock washed over Michael as the realization of her betrayal hit him like a sledgehammer. The woman he had devoted his life to, the one he trusted implicitly, was conspiring with another man to seize his fortune, believing he would never wake from his coma. A maelstrom of anger, sorrow, and disbelief surged within him, but amidst the turmoil, a sudden, piercing clarity emerged. He knew he had to remain still, to continue the ruse of unconsciousness. He needed time to absorb the depth of their deceit and to figure out how to protect what was rightfully his. As Lisa's conversation dragged on, Michael's resolve hardened. The pain of her treachery was unbearable, yet it fueled a fire within him. She and her lover, James, might believe they had already won, but Michael was far from defeated. He listened to every word, watched every calculated move she made, his senses heightened by the urgency of survival. The battle for his life, his legacy, and his honor had only just begun. Lisa's betrayal shattered Michael's world, but it also ignited a fierce determination. When she finally ended the call and approached his bedside, her face masked with feigned concern, Michael suppressed the urge to confront her. She gently brushed her fingers across his forehead, whispering words of false comfort, words that now felt like poison. But Michael remained silent, biding his time, allowing her to believe he was still helpless. Beneath the surface, his mind was racing, formulating a plan. He would need every ounce of strength and cunning to outwit them. The path ahead was fraught with peril. But Michael was ready to fight for his life, his wealth, and his dignity. In the days that followed, Lisa's visits to the ICU were frequent, her expression meticulously crafted to convey worry and devotion. But now, with the truth laid bare, Michael saw through her charade. Her eyes, once warm and inviting, now glinted with a cold, calculating edge that he had never noticed before. She meticulously checked the medical equipment and whispered sweet nothings into his ear, but all Michael heard were lies. The love he once felt for her was replaced with a steely resolve. He would endure this charade for as long as necessary, but when the time was right, he would expose her betrayal and reclaim his life. One day, while Lisa sat quietly beside Michael's bed, her phone rang, shattering the silence. Michael's pulse quickened, anticipating another secretive exchange. Lisa glanced around, ensuring they were alone, then answered in a low, hurried whisper. "Hello, James," she murmured, her voice dripping with an affection she had long withheld from Michael. "Yes, I've spoken to the lawyer. Everything is set. We just need a little more time." A searing pain stabbed at Michael's heart. The name James wasn't just that of a lover, it belonged to a man Michael had trusted with his business, his partner in countless ventures. Realizing that James was involved deepened the betrayal to an almost unbearable level. Michael fought to keep his body still, resisting the urge to explode with the rage and sorrow coursing through him. "Yes, darling," Lisa continued, her tone sickeningly sweet. "Once Michael is out of the picture, we can move forward with the transfer. There's nothing to worry about. It will all be ours." Michael squeezed his eyes shut, willing himself to remain calm. Every word she spoke felt like a knife twisting deeper into his chest, but it also fueled a burning resolve within him. He had to remain strong and silent, to absorb every detail she unwittingly shared. His survival, his legacy, depended on it. When Lisa ended the call, she turned to Michael, her expression softening into a loving smile that no longer fooled him. "Everything's going to be okay," love she cooed, gently stroking his hand. "You'll get better soon." Michael lay motionless, focusing on his breathing, masking the storm of emotions inside. He knew he had to continue the charade, to let Lisa believe she was in control, all while he gathered the ammunition he needed to bring them down. The days that followed were nothing short of emotional agony. Lisa's visits, filled with fake tenderness and hidden schemes, felt like a slow poison. Each time she entered the room, her concerned facade in place, Michael braced himself for the next wave of deceit. Every whispered conversation with James, every scheming glance, solidified his determination. He clung to the anger, letting it sharpen his focus and strengthen his resolve. One morning, as golden sunlight streamed gently through the curtains, Lisa arrived, her face a picture of concern, or was it manipulation? Michael could no longer tell. She sat beside him, grasping his hand in what felt like a mockery of affection. "Love, the doctor says you need time, but I know you're strong. You'll get through this." Michael looked at her through slitted eyes, feeling a deep, aching revulsion. The woman he had once adored, who had been his closest confidante, was now nothing more than a treacherous stranger. That afternoon, after Lisa had left, Michael allowed himself a moment of reflection. The memories of their happier times together, once cherished, now felt tarnished, overshadowed by her treachery. But Michael knew he couldn't afford to dwell on the past. He had to protect what was his, to outmaneuver those who sought to destroy him. Determined not to succumb to despair, Michael began to strategize his next move. He needed allies, someone he could trust in this web of deceit. His thoughts turned to Dr. Rebecca, the doctor who had been caring for him with such genuine concern. Perhaps she could be the ally he desperately needed. As the days passed, Dr. Rebecca continued her routine visits, checking Michael's vitals with meticulous care. She was sharp, observant, and over time began to notice subtle changes in Michael. A blink that lingered just a fraction too long, a twitch of his fingers that seemed deliberate. These small signs hinted at something more. One afternoon, As she adjusted his monitors, Rebecca caught a fleeting glimpse of awareness in Michael's eyes. He was following her movements, ever so slightly, but it was enough to spark her curiosity. Deciding to linger a bit longer, she watched him closely, her suspicions growing. Michael knew that he couldn't reveal too much too soon, but he also knew he couldn't do this alone. With Rebecca's help, he might just stand a chance against the darkness that had taken over his life. The time to strike back was drawing nearer, and he needed to be ready. The battle for his survival had only just begun, and Michael was determined to emerge victorious, no matter the cost. "Michael," Rebecca whispered, leaning close to his ear, "if you can hear me, move a finger." A tense silence followed, the air heavy with anticipation. Then, to her amazement, Michael's index finger twitched ever so slightly. Rebecca's heart swelled with a rush of emotion, relief, hope, and a fierce determination all rolled into one. She knew she had to tread carefully from here on out. The stakes were too high to make a mistake. After that day, Rebecca began visiting Michael more frequently, keenly observing his subtle responses to simple stimuli. With each visit, her suspicions grew stronger. Michael was conscious, trapped in the prison of his own body, fighting to be heard. One afternoon, as Rebecca reviewed his medical records, she decided it was time to speak more openly to him. She approached his bed, leaning in close so her words wouldn't carry beyond the confines of the room. "Michael, I know you can hear me. If you're aware, I need you to give me a sign with visible effort." Michael moved his finger again, a faint but deliberate motion. Rebecca smiled, a smile filled with hope and steely resolve. "I'm going to help you, Michael, but you need to trust me." In the days that followed, when Lisa was away, Rebecca seized the opportunity to have more in-depth conversations with Michael. "I've noticed you react to my questions," she began, her voice low and cautious. "I'm going to ask you a few things. If the answer is yes, move your finger. If it's no, do nothing." Summoning his strength, Michael managed a slight movement, confirming his understanding. Rebecca began with questions about his physical state, but soon delved into the darker matter, his situation with Lisa. With each subtle twitch of his finger, Michael communicated the harrowing story of betrayal and anguish that had been tormenting him. Rebecca felt a powerful mix of anger and empathy wash over her. "Don't worry, Michael. I won't breathe a word of this to anyone. We'll get you through this, but first, you need to focus on regaining your strength. Your secret is safe with me." From that moment on, Rebecca became his silent but unwavering ally. She subtly altered his daily routine, incorporating small exercises to help him regain strength without drawing suspicion. Day by day, their communication became more efficient, evolving into a coded system that allowed them to exchange vital information without words. Meanwhile, Emily, the young nurse, continued to care for Michael with genuine warmth and kindness. Unaware of his conscious state, her encouraging words and constant presence gave him the emotional support he desperately needed. Lisa, on the other hand, remained oblivious to the fact that Michael was fully aware of her every move, every cold glance, and every deceitful conversation. Each visit from her only fueled Michael's determination to expose her treachery. One day, while adjusting Michael's IV, Rebecca leaned in and whispered, "I'm looking into how we can expose Lisa and James. I need time to gather concrete evidence. Trust me, Michael will make this right." Those words rekindled a spark of hope within Michael. He knew he wasn't alone in this battle, that with Rebecca's help, he could finally confront Lisa and James and take back control of his life. The silent alliance between Michael and Rebecca grew stronger with each passing day, laying the groundwork for the inevitable showdown that would change their lives forever. As Rebecca continued to prove herself a loyal and resourceful ally, Michael's trust in her deepened. With his strength slowly returning and his body responding more positively to the subtle exercises, Michael knew the moment to act was drawing near. But to succeed, he needed to communicate with Rebecca, to devise a meticulous plan that would bring down Lisa and James once and for all. As the bond between them solidified, Michael and Rebecca prepared for the battle ahead. They both understood that the fight for justice would be fraught with risks, but together they were determined to overcome them. The time for reckoning was approaching, and when it arrived, Michael would be ready. One afternoon, after Lisa had left the hospital, Rebecca seized the opportunity to have a crucial conversation with Michael. Ensuring they wouldn't be interrupted, she quietly closed the door, her expression a mix of seriousness and hope. She approached Michael's bed, leaning in close. "Michael," she whispered, "we need to talk about our next steps. If you're ready, please give me a clear sign summoning all his strength." Michael moved his finger decisively. Rebecca gave a small nod, acknowledging his response, and began outlining her plan. "First, we must ensure that Lisa and James remain unaware of our intentions. I'll continue to act as if you're still unconscious while we quietly gather more evidence against them." She showed Michael the documents she had already obtained, financial statements and legal records riddled with irregularities that could be leveraged as proof of their wrongdoing. Rebecca had also secretly recorded some of Lisa's incriminating conversations. "These recordings and documents are a good start," Rebecca explained, "but we need to build a stronger case, something undeniable, to ensure they face the full consequences." Michael listened closely, his pulse quickening with a mix of fear and determination. He moved his finger to signal his understanding and agreement. Rebecca continued, her voice steady and reassuring. "I'm going to reach out to a lawyer I trust. We need someone discreet who can help protect your assets and ensure that Lisa and James don't get away with this." Over the following days, Michael and Rebecca fine-tuned their strategy. Rebecca contacted the lawyer, who agreed to assist them without disclosing Michael's true condition. Together, they began laying the groundwork for a confrontation that would bring Lisa and James to justice. Meanwhile, Emily, still oblivious to the reality of Michael's awareness, continued her compassionate care, offering Michael a much-needed sense of normalcy amidst the turmoil. One morning, while Lisa was away, Rebecca brought the lawyer to Michael's room. "Michael," Rebecca said softly, "this is the lawyer who will help us." "We need your confirmation to move forward." The lawyer, a seasoned professional with a sharp eye and a compassionate demeanor, stepped forward. "Sir," he addressed Michael respectfully, "I'm here to protect your interests. If you agree, please give me a sign." With a determined expression, Michael moved his finger once more. The lawyer nodded, understanding the significance of the gesture. "We'll work together to ensure justice is served," he vowed. From that moment, Michael, Rebecca, and the lawyer became a tightly knit team, united by their shared goal of exposing Lisa and James and safeguarding what was rightfully Michael's. Every action was carefully calculated, and every decision was meticulously planned to avoid raising suspicion. Rebecca and the lawyer intensified their efforts, gathering additional evidence, legal documents, financial records, and more recordings, and building an airtight case against Lisa and James. Simultaneously, Michael focused on regaining his strength, knowing that the day of reckoning was drawing near. One afternoon, as Rebecca adjusted his medical equipment, she leaned in and whispered, "We're almost there, Michael. Soon you'll be able to confront them. Stay strong." Those words filled Michael with renewed resolve. He knew that the time was coming when he would finally face his betrayers, and with Rebecca and the lawyer's unwavering support, he would reclaim his life and protect the legacy he had worked so hard to build. The silent pact between Michael and Rebecca solidified with each passing day, laying the foundation for the confrontation that would ultimately reshape their lives. Both understood that careful preparation was crucial in their battle to expose Lisa and James. Each day presented a delicate balancing act, maintaining the appearance of normalcy while secretly gathering the evidence needed to ensure a decisive showdown. Rebecca took extra care to provide Michael with the medical attention necessary to accelerate his physical recovery, all while keeping their plan under wraps. Rebecca began spending more time at the hospital, using her shifts to comb through Michael's medical and financial records with meticulous precision. During her investigations, she uncovered troubling details: small, suspicious transfers from Michael and Lisa's joint accounts to a private account controlled solely by Lisa. These subtle transactions were clear evidence of Lisa and James's premeditated scheme to siphon off Michael's wealth. One afternoon, while Michael was resting, Rebecca met with the lawyer in a quiet hospital conference room. "I found these suspicious transfers," she said, handing over the documents she had painstakingly collected. "We need to track these transactions and gather more evidence to make our case airtight," the lawyer nodded, reviewing the documents. "If we can prove that Lisa and James are intentionally defrauding Michael, we'll have the leverage we need to take them down." Back in Michael's room, Rebecca updated him on their progress. "We're making headway," she said gently. "The lawyer is tracing the financial transactions, but we need more time to ensure everything is in place." Michael moved his finger in response, signaling his understanding. He knew that every day was a chance to build his strength, both physically and mentally. Under Rebecca's guidance, he began discreet physical exercises, slowly reclaiming the vigor that had been sapped during his long recovery. Meanwhile, Lisa continued her regular visits, oblivious to the fact that Michael was fully aware of her deceit. One morning, as she spoke on the phone with James, Michael overheard a conversation that intensified his resolve. "Yes, James," Lisa said, her tone confident. "The lawyer says everything is set. We can start transferring the properties soon." Michael's anger simmered beneath the surface, mingling with a fierce determination. He knew time was running short. Lisa and James were closing in on their goal. He had to act swiftly. That afternoon, Rebecca brought a small voice recorder to Michael's room. "I want you to have this," she said, her voice low but firm. "We can use it to capture any crucial conversations. It could be the key to our case." Michael gave a slight nod, carefully hiding the recorder under his pillow. He understood that every word, every detail, could tip the scales in their favor. Each visit from Lisa and every phone call with James was an opportunity to gather the evidence they needed. As the days stretched on, Michael found himself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. His body was gradually growing stronger, but the mental and emotional toll of his situation was relentless. Pretending to be unconscious while listening to Lisa coldly plan his demise was a form of psychological torture. The hours spent alone in his room felt endless, filled with dark thoughts that threatened to overwhelm him. One afternoon, while staring blankly at the ceiling, Michael's mind drifted to memories of his mother. She had always taught him to face adversity with courage and resilience. He remembered her wise words: "Life will test you, but never let it defeat you. Rise every time you fall." This memory rekindled a spark within him, reminding him why he had to keep fighting. Though despair sometimes threatened to consume him, the desire to protect what was his and expose the betrayal kept him going. Amidst the storm, Emily, the young nurse, remained a beacon of light. Unaware of Michael's consciousness, she visited him daily, sharing stories and small talk that brought warmth to his heart. Her genuine care and cheerful presence were a soothing balm for his weary soul. Though she had no idea, Emily played a vital role in Michael's emotional recovery, giving him strength when he needed it most. One day, Emily arrived with a small potted plant, her face glowing with her usual optimism. "I thought you might like something green in here," she said, placing it on the table beside his bed. "Plants always make me feel better, like there's a little life and hope nearby." Michael gazed at the plant, feeling an unexpected connection to its quiet resilience. It was a simple, living symbol of life and growth, something he, too, was struggling to preserve. With a slight movement of his finger, he offered Emily a silent thank you for her kindness, a gesture of gratitude for the hope she unknowingly provided. However, not every moment was filled with hope and determination. There were days when frustration and anger gnawed at Michael, threatening to break the fragile control he had over his emotions. He felt trapped within his own body, a prisoner of his circumstances, unable to move or speak. These moments of deep anguish were the hardest to endure. One particularly lonely night, when the hospital was cloaked in silence, Michael was overwhelmed by a wave of despair. He wanted to scream, to thrash, to do anything that would release the pent-up tension inside him, but he knew that he had to remain composed. In the quiet darkness, Michael took a deep breath and clung to the teachings his mother had instilled in him and to the steady encouragement Rebecca provided. He focused on his goal, using that determination as a lifeline in the turbulent sea of his emotions. Rebecca remained his silent ally, always by his side, offering words of reassurance whenever she visited. "Stay strong, Michael," she would whisper, her voice a gentle balm. "We're so close. Soon, this nightmare will be over." During their private moments, Rebecca would sometimes share glimpses of her own life, revealing that she too had faced betrayals that had left deep scars. Her empathy was genuine, and her understanding bridged a connection between them that went beyond their current ordeal. These moments of shared vulnerability not only strengthened their bond but also gave Michael a renewed sense of resilience and hope, reminding him that he was not alone in his struggles. But not all their conversations were uninterrupted. One evening, their exchange was abruptly cut short by Lisa's sudden arrival. She stormed into the room, her eyes narrowing at the sight of Rebecca sitting beside Michael. "Good evening, Mrs." Rebecca greeted her with a calm, almost indifferent tone. "I didn't realize you were here. Is something wrong?" she asked, feigning concern. "I need a moment alone with Michael," Lisa snapped, her voice laced with irritation. "It will be brief, of course," Rebecca replied smoothly, rising to leave the room. As Rebecca exited, Lisa made sure to close the door firmly behind her. It was a deliberate act, part of her final maneuver to secure her plan. She approached Michael's bed, assuming he was still asleep, and spoke with cold finality. "Thank you for everything, my love," she said, her voice dripping with insincerity. "Now you can finally rest in peace while I enjoy what is rightfully mine." She pulled out her purse, took a photograph of his ID, and then, with a gleam of satisfaction in her eyes, added, "With this inheritance, I can finally go to Paris. You have no idea how much I appreciate it." With those chilling words, Lisa left the room, completely unaware that Michael had heard every word. Moments later, Rebecca re-entered, her eyes searching his face for any sign. "Did you catch anything important?" she asked quietly, her tone serious. Michael's eyes opened slightly, and a faint, victorious smile crossed his lips, confirming that he had indeed gathered crucial information. "Good," Rebecca said with a nod, her voice filled with quiet determination. "We're ready." The pieces were falling into place, and the moment of truth was drawing near. The following days were a whirlwind of preparation and introspection for Michael. Each passing hour brought him closer to the moment of truth. He continued to push himself, both physically and mentally, determined to confront the people who had betrayed him. Michael knew he wasn't just fighting for his survival, he was fighting for the justice owed to those who had supported him throughout this harrowing ordeal. The hour of reckoning was approaching, and Michael was ready to face it with every ounce of strength and courage he could muster. The sun had barely crested the horizon when Michael awoke, fully aware that this day would mark a turning point in his life. Rebecca arrived early, her eyes filled with a quiet determination. "Today is the day, Michael," she whispered as she checked his vital signs, her voice steady. "Everything is in place. Are you ready?" With a slight but firm movement of his finger, Michael signaled his readiness. The anticipation of facing Lisa and James stirred a mix of nerves and excitement within him, sharpening his focus. Rebecca, ever diligent, ensured that every detail was in order before the confrontation. The lawyer soon arrived, his demeanor calm but resolute as he reviewed the final details with Rebecca. "We have all the evidence we need," he said in a low voice. "Lisa and James won't be able to escape this." Rebecca nodded in agreement and turned to Michael. "The lawyer will keep your condition confidential for now. We're going to use their ignorance to our advantage." Michael moved his finger in acknowledgement, understanding the importance of maintaining the ruse a little longer. A few hours later, Lisa arrived at the hospital, her impatience barely concealed. She was eager to see the results of her machinations, and James, equally tense, accompanied her. Meanwhile, Rebecca and the lawyer waited patiently, preparing for the right moment to strike. Rebecca approached Lisa and James, her tone professional and composed. "There's something we need to discuss regarding Michael's condition. Both of you must be present." Lisa and James, suspecting nothing, followed Rebecca to the hospital's conference room. Once inside, the lawyer laid several documents on the table, his expression unreadable. "Mrs. Lisa, Mr. James." He began, "We've been reviewing some legal and financial matters that require your immediate attention." Lisa's brow furrowed in confusion, but before she could speak, the lawyer continued, "We've uncovered clear evidence of irregular financial transactions and communications that indicate an attempt at fraud and conspiracy." James, caught off guard, tried to object, but the lawyer cut him off. "Please remain calm. We're here to resolve this matter fairly. However, if necessary, we have all the evidence to pursue legal action." Lisa's face drained of color as she realized the gravity of the situation. "I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, attempting to maintain her composure, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her fear. Rebecca, who had remained silent until this point, finally stepped forward. "Lisa, we've been aware of your plans from the beginning. Michael is conscious, and he's been listening to everything." The revelation struck Lisa and James like a thunderbolt, leaving them stunned and speechless. "What? What are you saying?" Lisa stuttered, her voice barely a whisper. Rebecca glanced toward the door. "Michael, it's time." With great effort, Michael slowly sat up and entered the conference room, supported by Emily, who had been briefed on the situation and was there to help. The look of shock on Lisa's face morphed into pure panic as she saw him standing before her. "Michael," she breathed, her voice trembling with disbelief. Michael, his gaze steely and unwavering, confronted her. "I've heard everything. Lisa, every conversation, every scheme. I knew you were betraying me, and I've gathered all the evidence needed to ensure you don't get away with it." James, desperate to salvage the situation, interjected, "This is absurd. You have no proof." Unfazed, the lawyer calmly placed a recorder on the table and pressed play. The room filled with the unmistakable voices of Lisa and James, plotting Michael's death and dividing his inheritance. The cold, damning evidence left no room for denial. Realizing the walls were closing in, Lisa made one last desperate plea. "Please, Michael, it's not what you think. I only wanted the best for us." But Michael's expression remained resolute, though a deep sadness flickered in his eyes. "All this time I thought you loved me," he said quietly, his voice heavy with sorrow. "But now I see who you are." Lisa's final act of deception had crumbled, and her true nature laid bare. The confrontation was over, but the fallout had just begun. For Michael, it was not just about reclaiming his life and his legacy, it was about finally facing the truth, no matter how painful it was. The lawyer stepped in once more, his voice calm and assured. "Mr. Michael, we've prepared all the necessary documents to safeguard your inheritance and properties. Lisa and James will now face the full legal consequences of their actions." As the tension in the room finally eased, Rebecca, Emily, and the lawyer escorted Michael back to his room, ensuring he could rest after the intense confrontation. Despite his exhaustion, Michael felt an overwhelming sense of peace. He had faced the darkest betrayal of his life and emerged victorious. In the days that followed, the repercussions of the confrontation became clear. Lisa and James were swiftly arrested, and the case gained public attention as it moved toward a highly anticipated hearing. The evidence against them was indisputable, and the truth would soon be fully revealed. Rebecca continued her regular visits to Michael, providing both physical and emotional support during his recovery. Their bond deepened, grounded in mutual trust and respect. Michael knew the road to full recovery would be long, but with Rebecca by his side, he felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The day of revelation had marked a new beginning for him, one free from deceit, with a future filled with hope and possibility. The impact of the confrontation left Lisa and James reeling as they grappled with the consequences of their actions. Fear and desperation consumed them as they realized there was no way out. Meanwhile, Michael rested in his room, regaining his strength while the legal and medical teams prepared for the next phase of justice. Rebecca met with the lawyer in his office to discuss the final details of the case. "We have everything we need to proceed," the lawyer stated confidently. "Lisa and James have no way to escape the legal consequences, but we must ensure everything is airtight for the hearing." Rebecca nodded in agreement, her resolve unwavering. Michael has endured so much. He deserves to see justice served. Back in Michael's room, Emily was adjusting his bed and checking his vital signs. "Today is a significant day," she said with a warm, reassuring smile. "We're all here to support you." Michael, feeling stronger each day, nodded slightly. He knew the upcoming hearing was crucial not only for his vindication but also to close this painful chapter of his life. He was ready to face Lisa and James one final time, this time with the full weight of the law behind him. The hearing took place in a courtroom specially adapted within the hospital. The judge, a stern and fair-looking man, presided over the proceedings, ready to hear testimonies and review the evidence. Lisa and James sat in the defendant's seats, their faces pale and strained, knowing their fate hung in the balance. Michael's lawyer presented the case with clarity and precision, methodically laying out the evidence of conspiracy and fraud. The recordings and financial documents demonstrate the intent of Lisa and James to defraud Mr. Michael. The lawyer stated, playing the damning recordings and displaying the suspicious bank transfers. "Their guilt is undeniable." Lisa, desperate to salvage the situation, attempted to defend herself. "Your Honor, this is all a misunderstanding. I never intended to harm Michael. These things have been taken out of context." The judge, unimpressed, raised an eyebrow. "The evidence is quite clear, ma'am. Do you have anything else to say in your defense?" Sensing their situation was dire, James tried a different approach. "Michael, please," he said, turning directly to him. "We've been friends for years. This got out of hand. It wasn't supposed to end like this." But Michael, with a resolute expression, looked at James, then at Lisa. "I thought I could trust you," he said, his voice steady but laced with sadness. "But all you did was betray me and plot my demise. There are no excuses for what you've done." The judge, seeing Michael's unwavering determination, nodded solemnly. "I've heard enough. The evidence against you both is overwhelming. I declare Lisa and James guilty of fraud and conspiracy." A sob escaped Lisa as she realized the gravity of her situation, while James closed his eyes in resigned defeat. The judge continued, "I hereby sentence you to face the full legal consequences of your actions. Additionally, all of Michael's properties and assets will be protected and transferred according to his wishes." With that final declaration, a heavy silence filled the room. Lisa and James were led away by authorities, their fates sealed, while Michael felt a complex mix of relief and sorrow. Justice had been served, but the emotional toll was undeniable. Rebecca and Emily approached Michael, their expressions full of compassion and support. "You did it," Rebecca said softly, her voice filled with pride. "Now you can focus on healing and building a new life." In the days that followed, Michael turned his attention to his recovery. With Rebecca's unwavering support and Emily's nurturing care, he began to regain his strength and spirit. He knew the journey ahead would be challenging, but he was ready to face it with courage and hope. The battle had been won, and now it was time to rebuild a future free from betrayal and filled with the promise of a better life. Michael found solace in the realization that, despite the betrayal and heartbreak he had endured, he had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The confrontation with Lisa and James had been a pivotal moment in his journey toward healing and reclaiming his life. With Rebecca's unwavering support and his inner strength, Michael felt prepared to face whatever challenges life might present. Justice had been served, and now, with the future wide open before him, he was ready to build a life full of hope, opportunity, and new beginnings. Lisa and James, on the other hand, faced the full brunt of the legal consequences for their actions. The overwhelming evidence against them led to their inevitable conviction, and the news of their arrest quickly spread. Public opinion turned against them, condemning their deceit and betrayal. Their reputations were destroyed, along with any chance of rebuilding their lives with dignity or honor. Meanwhile, Michael began to take control of his life and his businesses once more. With the lawyer's guidance, he meticulously reviewed and reinforced all the necessary measures to prevent any future attempts at fraud. Although the process was mentally and physically draining, it also became a form of therapy for him. Each step he took to secure his assets and protect his future was a step toward regaining his autonomy and confidence. During this time, Rebecca remained a constant presence in Michael's life, not only as his doctor but also as his confidant and friend. What started as professional visits gradually evolved into deep, meaningful conversations about life, the past, and the future. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, rooted in mutual respect and a shared understanding of the struggles they had both faced. One afternoon, as Rebecca reviewed Michael's latest medical results, she smiled warmly. "Your progress is remarkable, Michael. You're recovering much faster than I anticipated." Michael returned her smile, feeling a sense of optimism that had long eluded him. "I couldn't have done it without you and Emily. You've both been my rock." Rebecca's expression softened as she looked at him. "You've done the hard work, Michael. We've just been here to support you." While Michael's life took a turn for the better, Lisa and James found themselves in a far darker place. In the cold, unforgiving confines of their prison cells, they were forced to confront the reality of their downfall. Lisa sat on the edge of her bed, her gaze fixed on the floor, lost in thought as the noise of the prison faded into the background. In the adjacent cell, James watched her through the bars, noticing the tension in her posture and the haunted look in her eyes. After a long silence, he finally spoke, his voice a mix of disbelief and despair. "Lisa, how did we get here? How did we ruin everything?" Lisa looked up, her expression hardening with anger and denial. "This isn't our fault, James," she replied, her tone resolute. "It's all Michael's fault. He put us in this situation. If he hadn't been so naive, we wouldn't be here." James frowned, his brows knitting together in frustration. "Do you believe that? We were the ones who planned to steal his inheritance. We were the ones who betrayed him. We can't blame Michael for our choices." Lisa stood abruptly, pacing back and forth in her cell, her emotions churning. "You don't get it, James. Michael was always the problem. He had everything, and he never once considered how he made us feel. We were just trying to get what we deserved." James sighed deeply, feeling the crushing weight of their actions. "Lisa, we made a mistake, a terrible one. We betrayed someone who trusted us completely. That's the truth, whether you want to admit it or not." Lisa crossed her arms, her expression defiant and unyielding. "Truth is relative, James, and my truth is that Michael betrayed us first by being so blind and trusting. We just did what we had to do." James shook his head, realizing that there was no way to change Lisa's perspective. "Everyone sees things their way, I suppose. But I know we made a grave error, and I'm willing to accept the consequences." As Lisa and James confronted the harsh realities of their decisions, Michael moved forward with his life, determined to rebuild with integrity and purpose. With Rebecca by his side, he faced the future with hope, knowing that the pain of the past had forged him into a man stronger and more resilient than ever before. Lisa turned to James, her gaze icy and resolute. "Do whatever you want, James, but I won't give up. I'll find a way to get out of here and reclaim what is mine." James sighed deeply, feeling the growing chasm between them. "I hope one day you can see the truth, Lisa," he replied, his voice tinged with sorrow. "Because until you do, you'll remain a prisoner of your own mistakes." As the hours dragged on in the cold, unforgiving cell, Lisa clung desperately to her version of reality, refusing to accept responsibility for her actions. She was unwilling to confront the choices that had led her to this point. James, on the other hand, began to reflect deeply on the decisions that had brought them here and the consequences they had wrought. He understood that the path to redemption would be long and arduous, but he was prepared to face it, no matter the cost. In the solitude of her cell, Lisa's thoughts wandered back to the life she had shared with Michael. They had once been the picture of an enviable couple, admired by those around them. Their story had begun many years ago when they were both young, full of dreams, and unaware of the trials that lay ahead. It was a sunny afternoon in a park near the university where they both studied. Michael was seated on a bench, absorbed in an economics book, while Lisa strolled nearby with her energetic golden retriever, Max. True to his playful nature, Max slipped from his leash and darted straight toward Michael, knocking the book from his hands. "Max, come back here," Lisa called, running after her mischievous dog. Startled but amused, Michael picked up his book and Max's collar. "Looks like someone's full of energy," he said with a warm smile as Lisa approached. "Embarrassed but smiling," Lisa replied. "I'm so sorry." "Max is always causing trouble," Michael chuckled as he petted Max. "No problem at all. It's a nice way to meet new people." That chance encounter sparked the beginning of a friendship. Lisa and Michael began meeting regularly at the park, their conversations ranging from their studies to their dreams and aspirations. Michael was a driven and focused student, determined to build a successful career. Lisa, by contrast, was studying art and had a more free-spirited, bohemian outlook on life. Their differences didn't divide them. Instead, they complemented each other, creating a bond that grew stronger with time. One evening, after one of their usual walks with Max, Michael invited Lisa to dinner. "I found a cozy little Italian restaurant that I think you'd love," he said, his eyes lighting up with excitement. Lisa eagerly accepted, and that night became one of the most memorable of their lives. Over plates of pasta and glasses of wine, they laughed, shared stories, and realized there was something undeniably special between them. Lisa admired Michael's passion and ambition, while Michael was captivated by Lisa's creativity and zest for life. As their friendship blossomed into love, Michael decided to make things official during a romantic dinner under the stars in the very park where they had first met. "I can't imagine my life without you," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "Will you be my partner?" Tears of joy welled up in Lisa's eyes as she gave a heartfelt yes from that moment on. They were inseparable, their lives intertwined in a shared vision of a future filled with love and promise. Their early years together were marked by countless happy moments, spontaneous trips to the beach, quiet nights at home watching movies, and dreaming of the future. Michael supported Lisa in her artistic endeavors, attending all her exhibitions and celebrating her successes. Lisa, in turn, stood by Michael's side through every milestone in his career, offering unwavering encouragement and emotional support. A few years later, Michael proposed to Lisa during a trip to Paris. Under the twinkling lights of the Eiffel Tower, he knelt and presented her with a ring. "Lisa, you are the love of my life. Will you marry me and share all our tomorrows?" Overwhelmed with happiness, Lisa accepted without hesitation. Their wedding was a small, intimate affair, surrounded by close family and friends. It was a day filled with love, joy, and the promise of a bright future together. But as the years passed, the pressures of daily life began to erode the foundation of their marriage. After the wedding, they returned to the city and settled into their routines. Michael's ambition and drive led him to immerse himself fully in his work. His days became consumed with meetings, business trips, and long hours at the office. Although his professional success continued to grow, his time with Lisa dwindled. Lisa, having put her artistic career on hold to support Michael and manage their household, initially believed her sacrifices were for the good of their marriage. But as time wore on, she began to feel increasingly isolated and underappreciated. The once vibrant connection between them began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of distance. One afternoon, as Michael sat in his study, reviewing documents, Lisa approached him with a hopeful smile. "How about we go out for dinner tonight? There's a new restaurant I'd love to try." Michael barely looked up from his papers as he responded distractedly, "Sorry, Lisa. I've got too much work to do." Maybe another time. It was a response she had heard far too often, and each time it chipped away at her spirit. The romantic dinners and nights filled with laughter became distant memories, replaced by lonely evenings where Lisa sat by herself, wondering if they would ever rediscover the spark that had once brought them together. As Lisa sat in her prison cell, these memories played through her mind like a film reel, each scene filled with both the joy and the sadness of her life with Michael. She had once loved him deeply, but over time, resentment and bitterness had taken root, twisting her perception until she could no longer see the man she had fallen in love with. Instead of addressing the growing rift between them, she had allowed it to fester, ultimately leading her down a path of betrayal and destruction. James watched Lisa silently from his cell, sensing the turmoil within her. He knew she was wrestling with her demons, but he also knew that unless she faced the truth, she would remain trapped, not just in the physical prison, but in the prison of her own making. Lisa's growing loneliness and the emotional void in her marriage drove her to seek solace in other activities. She returned to her art, but the passion that once fueled her creativity had dimmed. Her works became darker, reflecting her frustration, sadness, and the overwhelming sense of neglect she felt. Michael, however, was too absorbed in his business dealings to notice the shift in her art or the deepening chasm between them. The emotional distance between Lisa and Michael widened, leading to more frequent arguments. "Why do you always have time for your work, but never for us?" Lisa's voice trembled with desperation and anger. "I'm doing this for us, Lisa, to secure our future," Michael would reply, oblivious to the fact that what Lisa truly needed was his presence, his attention, and his love, not just financial security. Their relationship continued to deteriorate until one day, in the middle of yet another heated argument, Michael received an urgent call from his business partner, James. "I'm sorry, but I have to go," Michael said, leaving Lisa alone with her growing resentment. James, who had been Michael's close friend since their university days, began to notice Lisa's discontent. Sensing an opportunity, he started to get closer to her, offering a sympathetic ear and a steady presence. "I understand what you're going through," James would say, his tone gentle and understanding. Michael is so caught up in his work that he doesn't realize what he's losing. James's words struck a chord with Lisa, who felt increasingly isolated and misunderstood. Their friendship grew stronger, and as Lisa spent more time with James, their relationship gradually evolved from friendship into something more intimate. James filled the emotional void that Michael had left, and Lisa, in her desperation for connection, began to trust him more than she should have. The relationship with James became Lisa's escape, offering her the attention and comfort she so desperately craved. As their bond deepened, James began subtly planting seeds of doubt and resentment towards Michael. "Why do you keep putting up with this, Lisa? You deserve to be happy," he would say, slowly poisoning her thoughts and fueling her bitterness. Blinded by her anger and the sense of betrayal she felt, Lisa started to entertain thoughts of taking matters into her own hands. With James's encouragement, those thoughts turned into plans. They began plotting how they could take control of Michael's inheritance and businesses, convincing themselves that they were justified in their actions. Michael never valued me, Lisa would tell herself, feeding the narrative she had created. He never realized what he had until it was too late. I'm just taking what's rightfully mine. As their discussions grew more sinister, Lisa and James lost sight of the gravity of what they were planning. In her mind, Lisa rationalized that her pain and neglect entitled her to everything Michael had built. She was so consumed by her resentment that she couldn't see the moral line she was crossing. For James, the combination of ambition and Lisa's vulnerability was the perfect storm, driving him to manipulate her into a betrayal neither of them would have imagined in the early days of their relationship with Michael. The climax of their betrayal came when Michael had an accident that left him in a coma. Instead of worrying about his condition, Lisa saw it as an opportunity to execute their plan. With James's help, she began moving funds and orchestrating how to take control of Michael's assets. Lisa convinced herself she was doing the right thing. "He never valued me," she repeated like a mantra. "I'm just claiming what's mine by right." But while Lisa and James plotted in secret, Michael, trapped in his unconscious state, remained unaware of the betrayal unraveling around him. It was only when Michael began to awaken, aided by Rebecca's persistence and care, that their plans were disrupted. The confrontation that followed shattered the web of deceit Lisa and James had woven, exposing their betrayal and leading them to face the full consequences of their actions. The descent from love to betrayal was complete. What began as a loving, supportive relationship had deteriorated into a twisted tale of greed, resentment, and manipulation. In the end, Lisa and James's actions not only destroyed their lives but also brought them to justice, forcing them to confront the devastation they had caused not just to Michael, but to themselves as well. The story of Lisa and Michael is a poignant reminder of how a lack of communication and emotional neglect can slowly erode even the strongest relationships. What began with love, dreams, and promises of a future together eventually deteriorated into a tragedy marked by betrayal and regret. Both made decisions that led them down a path of destruction, pushing their relationship to a point of no return. As Lisa sat alone in her cold prison cell, memories of her life with Michael flooded her mind. The tears came slowly at first, then faster as she recalled how James had taken advantage of her vulnerability, offering the attention and support she had longed for but never received from Michael. The realization of how deeply she had hurt Michael overwhelmed her. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the space around her, her voice choked with emotion. "I'm so sorry for everything I did. I never wanted it to end like this." For the first time, Lisa allowed herself to fully accept the weight of her actions. She knew the only way to find any semblance of peace was to take responsibility for the harm she had caused. That night, as exhaustion set in and the tears finally ceased, Lisa made a silent vow. She promised herself that she would face her mistakes, accept the consequences, and strive to find a path to forgiveness, starting with forgiving herself. Lisa drifted off to sleep on the cold floor of her cell, cradled by the solitude, but with a newfound determination in her heart. Though she could never undo the past, she resolved to build a future where her mistakes would not define her. Far from the prison, Michael was also on a path to healing. With Rebecca's unwavering support and the comfort of his new life, he continued his recovery. Although the emotional scars would take time to heal, Michael had reclaimed control of his destiny and was determined to live with integrity and purpose. Finally free from the burdens of legal battles and the shadow of betrayal, Michael decided to focus on what truly mattered: enjoying life and sharing his fortune with those who had stood by him during his darkest moments. One afternoon, as he and Rebecca strolled through the hospital garden, Michael shared his thoughts. "I've spent so much time protecting what's mine and dealing with betrayal that I forgot what matters: enjoying life and being with the people who matter." Rebecca smiled warmly, nodding in agreement. "You're right, Michael. You've worked hard, and now it's time to enjoy the fruits of your labor with those who genuinely care about you." Determined to celebrate life and second chances, Michael decided to host a grand thank you party at his home. He invited everyone who had played a role in his recovery, including Emily, Rebecca, the lawyer, and other close friends and family. The evening was filled with joy and gratitude, a celebration not only of Michael's victory over adversity but also of life, friendship, and the power of support. Michael's home, once filled with shadows and painful memories, now echoed with laughter and lively conversations. The garden, transformed into a magical space adorned with lights and soft music, became the heart of the gathering, exuding warmth and festivity. Surrounded by those who truly cared for him, Michael felt more alive than he had in years. During the party, Michael raised his glass to make a toast. "I want to thank every one of you for standing by me during the darkest times of my life. Without your support, I wouldn't be here today. This celebration is for all of us." The room erupted in applause, and Michael felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over him. After the toast, Emily approached Michael, her eyes shining with emotion. "You are an inspiration, Michael. It's wonderful to see you enjoying life again." Michael smiled and pulled her into a warm embrace. "I couldn't have done it without you, Emily. Your kindness and care were vital to my recovery." As the celebration wound down, Michael found himself drawn to a nearby park, a place filled with memories of his early days with Lisa. He sat on a bench, reflecting on the journey they had taken together, the joy, the love, and the heartbreak. The promises of eternal love they had once made now seemed like distant, almost unreal memories. "How did we get here?" he wondered aloud, feeling a deep sense of sadness and resignation. Michael knew he couldn't place all the blame on Lisa. He had to acknowledge his role in the deterioration of their relationship. The long workdays, the nights spent at the office, and the countless times he had prioritized his professional ambitions over his marriage all played a part. He recalled how, over time, he had stopped listening to Lisa's emotional needs, convinced that his success at work would be enough to ensure their happiness. He remembered the arguments, the times Lisa had reached out to him, only to be met with indifference. He could see her face clearly in his mind, the sadness, the disappointment that he had ignored too many times. As the memories surfaced, Michael felt a pang of guilt. "I should have listened. I should have been there for her," he thought, remorse washing over him. Lisa didn't need more money or security. She needed her husband, her partner. At that moment, Michael realized that the tragedy of their relationship was not just the result of Lisa's betrayal, but also of his neglect. The love they had shared had been real, but they had both lost sight of what mattered most. Though it was too late to change the past, Michael resolved to learn from his mistakes and live a life grounded in presence, connection, and purpose. As he sat in the park, Michael felt a sense of closure. He knew that while the past would always be a part of him, it did not have to define his future. With the support of those who truly cared for him and a renewed understanding of what mattered, Michael was ready to embrace the next chapter of his life, one filled with hope, gratitude, and the promise of new beginnings. As Michael reflected on his past, he came to a profound realization: holding on to guilt wouldn't change what had happened. "I can't undo what happened," he told himself, "but I can learn from it." He looked up at the sun setting behind the trees, casting a warm, golden glow over the landscape. At that moment, he understood that he had the chance to start anew, to live a life full of meaning and purpose. "The past is full of lessons," he thought, "and those lessons have brought me here. I've endured pain and betrayal, but I've also gained a new perspective and new hopes." He thought of Rebecca, who had been his doctor and now a close friend, supporting him throughout his recovery. Her unwavering presence had helped him heal, not just physically but emotionally as well. Michael knew that life had given him a second chance, not only to rebuild himself but also to make a positive impact on others. Setting his coffee cup on the table, Michael stood up and took a deep breath of the fresh evening air. He promised himself that he wouldn't let the past dictate his future. There was too much life to live, too many experiences to savor, and too many people to help. With a lighter heart and a renewed sense of clarity, Michael re-entered the cabin, ready to move forward. He knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but he was prepared to face it with courage and gratitude. Life had taught him valuable lessons, and he was determined to use those lessons to create a future filled with love, hope, and purpose. Michael had found his way and was ready to embrace every step of the journey. The days that followed were filled with activities and adventures that Michael had long postponed. With Rebecca by his side, they explored the city, enjoying dinners at elegant restaurants, leisurely walks in parks, and visits to museums. Each moment they shared strengthened their bond and allowed them to fully appreciate life without the weight of past worries. One weekend, Michael organized a beach trip for his closest friends and family. He rented a beautiful villa by the sea, where everyone could relax and enjoy the sun and sand. The laughter, games on the beach, outdoor dinners, and conversations under the stars created unforgettable memories for everyone. The trip was a celebration of life, second chances, and the joy of being surrounded by those who truly cared. As the waves gently lapped the shore, Michael stood on the beach, watching the sun dip below the horizon. He felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that he had not only reclaimed his life but had also built something beautiful from the ashes of his past. With Rebecca, his friends, and family by his side, Michael knew he was finally living the life he was meant to live, one filled with love, connection, and purpose. One afternoon, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the villa terrace, Michael took Rebecca's hand, his voice filled with sincerity. "This is the beginning of something new for me," he said softly. "I want to keep exploring the world, enjoying what life has to offer, and I'd love for you to be by my side." Rebecca's eyes sparkled with emotion as she replied, "Nothing would make me happier. We've been through so much together, and I'm ready for whatever adventure comes our way." Just then, Emily joined them, carrying 2 fresh coconuts. "I can't wait to see what else the future holds," she said with a bright smile. "This trip has been incredible, and I'm so grateful to be part of it." Michael raised his coconut in a spontaneous toast to new adventures, friendship, and love. "May we always find joy in each moment." The vacation in Hawaii was a resounding success, a time of healing, joy, and rediscovery. Michael realized that although he had faced betrayals and challenges, life still had so much to offer. With Rebecca and Emily by his side, he felt ready to embrace whatever the future held, confident that true wealth lay in human connections and the moments shared with those who mattered most. Returning from Hawaii, Michael was filled with a renewed sense of energy and optimism. He had learned to cherish each day and appreciate the blessings life had given him. With Rebecca and Emily as his companions, he knew he was ready for any adventure the future might bring, trusting that together they could face any challenge and find happiness in every step of the journey. As the days passed and life returned to its familiar rhythm, Michael felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The Hawaiian vacation had marked a turning point, helping him close one chapter of his life and begin a new one filled with hope and possibilities. To celebrate this new beginning, Michael decided to host an intimate dinner in his garden, inviting those who had been crucial to his recovery journey. Under a starry sky, surrounded by the fragrant blooms of his garden, Michael, Rebecca, and Emily gathered for one last celebration of friendship, love, and resilience. The evening was filled with warmth and camaraderie, a testament to the strength of the bonds they had forged. As the dinner progressed, Michael took a moment to reflect on everything he had been through. Raising his glass, he looked at his friends with a smile full of gratitude. "I want to thank both of you for being by my side during the darkest moments of my life. Without your support, I don't know how I would have made it." Rebecca returned his smile warmly, saying, "Michael, it's been an honor to be with you on this journey. You've shown incredible strength and have inspired us all." Emily nodded in agreement, adding, "You are an example of resilience and courage, Michael." I'm so grateful to have been a part of your life." Moved by their words, Michael felt a deep sense of peace. "I've learned so much during this time. The betrayals of Lisa and James were painful, but they also taught me something valuable: the importance of true human connections. Sometimes you need to go through the fire to discover what matters." Rebecca gently took Michael's hand. "That's true. Through difficulties, we find the strength to keep going and value moments of happiness more," Emily added. "And we also learn to surround ourselves with people who truly care about us. That's the real wealth." Michael nodded, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "I've realized that life isn't just about material wealth, but about shared experiences and meaningful relationships. My inheritance isn't just money, but also the lessons learned and the moments lived with you." Rebecca smiled. "Let's keep creating memories together, Michael. The future is full of possibilities." Emily raised her glass in a final toast. "To the future, to friendship, and to love. May we always find joy in each day." The dinner continued with laughter and heartfelt conversations, each of them savoring the simplicity and beauty of being together. As the candles slowly burned out, Michael felt more grateful than ever for the second chances life had given him and for the people who had helped him rediscover the true meaning of life. Later that evening, as Michael wandered through the tranquil garden with Rebecca, he paused under the vast expanse of the night sky, mesmerized by the twinkling stars. With a gentle tone, he turned to Rebecca and whispered, "Rebecca, at this moment, I realize I've found the serenity and happiness I've long sought. I am deeply grateful for your unwavering presence beside me on this journey." Rebecca's eyes softened as she looked at him, her voice filled with warmth. "Michael, I'll forever stand by you. We've weathered countless storms together, and my heart is filled with hope for the bright future ahead." Michael's heart swelled with a quiet joy, knowing that no matter what obstacles lay ahead, he would face them with Rebecca and Emily by his side. Life had shown him that even in the darkest times, a glimmer of light awaited at the tunnel's end. Each sunrise offered a fresh chance to embrace happiness and find deeper meaning in everyday moments. As he crossed the threshold back into his home, a profound sense of contentment washed over Michael. He had not only endured the trials life had thrown at him, but had emerged with a renewed sense of purpose and a reimagined way of living. With Rebecca's steadfast support and Emily's enduring friendship, Michael felt ready to take on whatever life might bring. He knew he had discovered the true essence of wealth, rooted not in material gain, but in the priceless bonds of love, friendship, and the joy of cherishing each day as it comes. The tale of Michael, Lisa, and Rebecca delves into the intricate web of love, betrayal, and the powerful force of redemption. It serves as a poignant reminder that our choices and actions resonate far beyond the moment, leaving lasting imprints on our lives and the lives of those we hold dear. Love, though a force of immense strength, is also delicate and vulnerable. It demands nurturing, understanding, and most importantly, open communication. In his marriage with Lisa, Michael became so absorbed in securing their financial future that he overlooked the essential emotional connection and daily intimacy that breathed life into their relationship. Feeling neglected and unappreciated, Lisa allowed her growing resentment and bitterness to cloud her judgment, leading her down a path of regrettable decisions. Michael's journey toward healing and his relationship with Rebecca illustrate the profound importance of learning from our past missteps. His story reveals that while the road to redemption is often paved with pain, it's possible to find peace and happiness through confronting our shortcomings and striving to grow from them. And so, the story of Michael, Lisa, and Rebecca draws to a close, a poignant journey through the highs and lows of love, betrayal, and redemption. It is a story where true wealth was ultimately discovered in the connections forged, the love that endured, and the invaluable lessons learned along the way. And there you have it, the compelling journey of Michael, Lisa, and Rebecca, a story filled with valuable life lessons about love, forgiveness, and the importance of meaningful connections. Now, it's your turn to reflect. What have you learned from this story? What is the one lesson you'll take to heart and apply in your own life? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please share in the comments below. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to leave your comment below, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more stories and wisdom that inspire change and growth.